All right, today we're going to try and make a deep dish pizza in our springform pan. We're going to use 6 ounces of mozzarella cheese. This is to make the crust, which you may have seen before, the keto crust. 6 ounces of mozzarella cheese, 5 tablespoons of butter. We're going to use a half a cup of blanched almond flour. We're going to use a 1/4 cup of coconut flour. I also add, and it's optional, but an 1/8 of a cup of ground chia seed. Just adds a little bit of firmness, and it's loaded with omega-3, so it's really good. We're also going to have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I use the Himalayan pink salt. And then also optional, I use a 1/4 teaspoon of Italian seasonings, minus the sauce on there. Italian seasonings, just for the taste, for like a pizza, or if I want the bread to be more savory, I'll add these. If you're making a bread that's less savory, you would just skip this part. All right, and then also to that, you're going to add 1 large egg, which I believe is hiding right here. Okay, so that's for the crust. And then for the stuffing of the pizza, we're going to go with 5 ounces of spinach. We're going to coarsely chop that up. It looks like a lot, but it cooks down pretty good. We're going to go with 30 or so olives, and then we have about half a cup. Sorry, that's not a half. That's a 1/4 cup of pizza sauce. Any pizza sauce you want. I try to be careful because I look for the sauces that have less carbohydrates in it, and this is one of them. Then we're going to go with 8 ounces of sausage on 1/2. We're doing a half and half pizza because we're going to do spinach, olive, and sausage on one, and then spinach, olive, and bacon on the other. A house divided, right? So we're going to go with 8 ounces of sausage on the 1/2, 8 ounces of bacon on the other half. Both of these need to be cooked beforehand because you pre-cook your crust a little bit, so it's not going to spend the amount of time a pizza would spend in the oven once all the ingredients are put in. I left a little bit of mozzarella cheese to shred up and toss over the top, along with the Parmesan cheese. Then we have about 6 ounces of mozzarella cheese sliced that will go on top as well. So we'll start preparing this. I've already cooked up some things beforehand, so we don't have to watch that happen, but I'll get going with the crust first. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut 5 tablespoons of butter, and luckily mine's measure it out for me, and those just get tossed right into the pan on very low heat, as low as you can get that to melt. That's where you want to keep that heat. When you start tossing the mozzarella, you don't want it to start bubbling up or sizzling or anything like that. You just want it to melt nice and slow. So I'll start this. Melts a little better if you cut them up. And then I save the wrapper from the butter because I'm going to use that to grease my springform pan. We also wrap some parchment paper around the springform pan at the bottom, so when you pop the spring, it lifts right out. You don't have to worry about using a knife or anything to cut, to separate it from the bottom, and that, saves your pan from getting scratched up. All right, so that's going to start melting. Once it melts, I'll throw in my mozzarella cheese. While that's happening, I'm going to coarsely chop up my spinach. I did cheat a little bit. I've already cooked my bacon and my sausage, so those are done. I will chop the bacon up nice and coarse also, and then the sausage, you can see I put it into balls to brown it. Not cooked all the way through on the sausage, almost all the way through, I would say, to allow it to cook a little bit more while it goes in the oven, but it's just about done, would be the way I'd say it. Don't overcook it or you'll dry out your sausage. All right, so I'm going to coarsely chop up this spinach. I'm going to bring over a cutting board to do that. And I'm going to take just a second, a little bit of vamp time while my butter melts and before I start mixing my dry ingredient. So just for a coarse chop, you just sort of get it in there, and I'm not too worried about this at all because it really does cook down. That's going to stay there. I'm going to take this out of the way now. I will add to this the dry mix, which I'll put right in here. And the dry mix is going to be, like we said before, a half a cup of almond flour. Separate this from the ring. It's a little bit easier. Hold on a second. All right, sorry for the interruption. So we're going to go with a half a cup of blanched almond flour. If I can find my half cup right there, right in front of me. And before I even get going, remember to sift your flours and your ingredients, your dry ingredients, because once they're in there, it's much more difficult to get rid of those lumps. We got to get a little bit more on the spoon. There we go. That's about a quarter cup. About a quarter cup. So I'll dump that right in there. Quarter cup of blanched almond flour. We're going to use, oh sorry, that was a half a cup of blanched almond flour. And you can see I did put in a half a cup. Hopefully you can see that. And then we're going to do a quarter cup of the coconut flour. And you can find these at Walmart, Meijer, Jewel, almost any grocery store. Third a cup, right in there, plop. And then we've got ourselves an eighth of a cup of the chia seeds. And I don't have an eighth cup measurer, so I'm going to do a half of a quarter cup. I'm sure I have an eighth cup somewhere, but I'm just going to pour it. Oh, don't pour it over that. If you saw my video of my donuts, I poured my salt over top of my mix and didn't see that I actually had poured way more salt than I missed. And my donuts tasted horrible because they had too much salt, by more than double. So don't pour over top of your mix. Quick trick from the well-learned. All right, and then we got 2 teaspoons of the baking powder. And again, this one especially tends to clump if your house, especially if you have a humidifier on your furnace or it's warm, summertime. So make sure that one definitely goes through a strainer. We got a half a teaspoon of the garlic powder. And we grab a half teaspoon. Don't have a half teaspoon, so we're going to go with 2 quarter teaspoons. One, 2. All right, and then quarter teaspoon of the Italian seasonings go in there. And I'm going to mix this up a little bit because I want to make sure I get the Italian seasonings and not just whatever is at the top. So make sure you shake that one up when you do it. And then a quarter teaspoon of salt. And I've lost my salt bowl. I'm going to... Yeah, thank you for washing it. I'm going to grind some up real quick. And then I will take a quarter teaspoon of that. Voila. All right, put that out of the way. All right, so my stuff's in. I'm going to use a fork to sort of mix it up as I push it through the strainer. I got some good clumps there. This is a good way to mix it and make sure it gets strained well, and I'll just sort of tap it in there. You can see, I don't know if you can see that too well, but my baking powder is all clumped up, and that would just taste terrible if we were to put that through just like that, so I'll use my fingers to grind that up a little bit more. And there are a few seasonings that didn't make it through the strainer, so I just keep crushing those up and through. And that's good. Then just give that a quick fork mix. Make sure everything's incorporated well. And our butter is melting up nicely. I didn't chop all my spinach. So I'm going to take that over the cutting board and chop it up a little bit, and I will be right back. Done and done. Oh. In my haste, I didn't check to make sure the heat came on the burner there, and my butter was not melting. So we'll have an interlude of music while we wait. Slice up a little more mozzarella. This will be to cover up the top when we're all done, along with some nice slices of mozzarella and the ground Parmesan, the shredded Parmesan.
So I'll shred these to the large holes, a nice big shred, and then the Parmesan will go through a fine grater, and that will be also sprinkled on top, along with whatever else you'd like, but we're just going to go with the cheeses and our meats on top. You can put some nice dried tomatoes, you can put, oh, I think you can actually, whatever you like on your pizza.
It's fair game. I'm going to reach across here and grab a little bowl to put this in. As you can see, it's not a whole lot. It's just to sort of make the top look pretty. And my counters are clean, so we can do this. And our butter's actually finally melting up pretty good. A couple more seconds and I'll throw in our mozzarella cheese and we'll get that going. So while I do this, I think what I'll do is grind up the, finely shred the Parmesan and put it right in the bowl with the mozzarella for sprinkling on top. And then I use this handheld shredder to shred my Parmesan. Works out great. Unfortunately, I'm not measuring it out like you should, but I know it's going to be about right there.
Sure, that's what quiet all of a sudden. Not used to that in this house. My dog has found that.
I'm a messy cooker. Always comes and stands to get his fair share. Alright, so it looks like our butter is melted. We're on a low heat. I'm just going to toss in our mozzarella cheese and let that slowly melt for a couple minutes. And we will stir that frequently with, I use a soft spatula, but I'm not sure that's required. Just seems to work best for me. Did you get some salt, Benny? And Benny found some of the seasonings on the floor, and now he's very thirsty. Alright. That was right the first time. And we'll just keep shredding that in. And this is going to just get finely thrown over the top. So